Hello? 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 Testing? Is that on? Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's like a glorious day outside. I wish we had the blinds open. It's beautiful. Well, welcome to yet another Savvy Seniors Living Seminar of 2022. So pleased to see you all. Most of you, I see your smiling faces, some behind masks, but I can see your smiling eyes. So I'm so pleased that you're here today. We've got another great group of panelists to share a little bit about how we're all going to get prepared for our next emergency. But in the meantime, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dayna Wilson. Bless you. And that's Pam. And I am a seniors real estate specialist with Keller Williams Realty and a certified senior housing professional. And I started these seminars, June of 2017, because I wanted to create something that would engage and educate and empower our boomers, zoomers, and savvy seniors locally, so that they were getting the real information and the truth about a variety of topics, mostly senior housing related. And I'm using the word senior loosely because that could be 55 plus. I'm a senior, so. And so just to kind of give you an update, we have, and I don't know if these are on your, if you don't have a copy, we've got the hard copy of the list of the rest of the 2022 seminars coming up. And as usual, we ask for registration online. Tell your neighbors, bring a friend. We love to share the information with as many people as possible. And we're doing some fun things. As promised earlier in the year, we have our first 2 bus tours scheduled, and those will also be, I think, on your chairs. So very limited space. If you're interested, the first one of the year is going to be a field trip to the Reutlinger community. And is Patrick here? Pat? There you are. Well, stand up, stand up. So Patrick is with the Reutlinger community. It's in beautiful Danville out near Blackhawk Plaza, and that will be on April 19th. We'll be leaving from the Keller Williams parking lot and cruising out there, going on a tour, having a wonderful lunch, and getting to know them a little bit better and what they offer. They are a very unique community, and they are a continuing care retirement community or life plan community. So that'll be a fun time. And then on the 27th of April, we're going to go to 3 Carlton senior living communities. And again, we'll be starting at Keller Williams, and then we're going to go on a little bus tour. So if those sound of interest, if you've always wanted to know a little bit more about, who these different communities are and what they offer, then this will be a really fun day, for sure. Okay. Now, next piece of homework. Take out your phones and make sure they're all on silent. A little housekeeping there. If you need to get up, the restroom's at the end of the hall. Make yourselves at home. We're all friends here. And let's save our Q&A for the end. But we will get started now because I want to make sure that we do have plenty of time to ask all of our questions. And first of all, I want to thank again our panelists for their time today and just ask each of them to introduce themselves. You know what? Before we even do that, I'm going to jump into one other thing because I'm looking at Pamela. Maybe she's going to sneeze again. I don't know. Okay, no. Okay, good. But I want to give a shout out now before the end to thank our education partners, because without them, these seminars would not be able to continue on as they have. And so our education partners for 2022 are Better Days in-home care providers, Mutual of Omaha, Reverse Mortgage, and if you're here, thank you, Martha. If you're here, stand up. Carlton Senior Living, awesome, and you can keep standing up if you want. Atria Senior Living, Reutlinger Community, Oakmont Senior Living, Creating New Hope. There's Christine back there, Robert Silverman Law Group, and myself. So again, let's give them a big round of applause because, what?
Luxury International.
That's me. Yeah, that's me. Luxury International. All right. Okay. So without further ado, let's just jump into this right now. And I'm just going to ask that our folks introduce themselves. So, Aaron, tell us who you are and who you're with and what you do.
Good morning. All right. My name is Aaron McAllister, and I'm the Deputy Fire Chief for Contra Costa County Fire. We cover into Lafayette, Walnut Creek, and then once you cross into Moraga-Rinda, that's a different fire organization, but we work closely together. We're dispatched by the same people. We operate 28 fire stations throughout Central, East, and a little bit of West Contra Costa County. And so we are the largest fire service provider, and then collaborate with our other partners throughout the county.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for being here again. Diana.
I'm Diana Graham, and I am a volunteer for the Red Cross, and I would like to say that everyone might want to consider volunteering for the Red Cross because it's lots of fun. I get to come and talk to groups like you. I've been doing community preparedness for about 11 years, and I was a chemist before that.
Interesting. Interesting. And Duncan.
I'm Duncan Seibert. I have two roles that I'm working on today. Both are volunteer. I'm the program manager for La Miranda CERT, that's the Community Emergency Response Team, and I'm chair of the City of Lafayette's Emergency Preparedness Commission.
Nice. So you can see we've got some heavy hitters in the room today, and they're going to share a lot of great information. And we'll just kind of go down backwards and say, Duncan, maybe describe for our group today the general array of services offered by your group.
CERT provides training to residents within our jurisdiction, which is La Miranda. Following a disaster, the first responders will be overwhelmed. If on the back table there's a handout that says, why not just call 911 after a disaster? And that's what most people would think of doing. And if I can just read the first paragraph, La Miranda's first responders are well prepared to handle everyday emergencies. During a disaster, the number and scope of incidents is likely to exceed our police, fire, and EMS providers' ability to immediately serve all citizens in need. There are over 63,000 residents in La Miranda. There are normally 6 police patrol cars, 8 fire engines, and 2 ambulances on duty. That's 1 first responder vehicle for every 4,000 residents. So when a large disaster strikes, you and your family could be on your own for quite a while. So we train people to be prepared for disasters and then how to respond to them. Our students are from as young as 14 with a parent there because their attention span sometimes is a little short. And the oldest group that we've taught, we did a class at the Orinda Senior Village where the average age was 80. So
that's awesome.
It doesn't matter what your age is, you can get prepared to take care of yourself, your neighbors, and your community following a disaster.
That's awesome. Thank you. Aaron, what are the general services that the Contra Costa County Fire District provides us?
Well, in addition to firefighting, we have some specialty skills, confined space rescue, hazardous materials, We operate a heavy equipment program. In the summertime, we staff bulldozers. We have a hand crew that's been very active in this community recently, doing fuel mitigation projects. That we're in our 3rd year of the hand crew program, and it's been phenomenally successful. We just received permanent funding for the hand crew to continue year-round and do fuel mitigation. So we're behind the curve. There's lots of work to do, and they're very busy out there putting in defensible space in public spaces, fire breaks that make sense to protect communities. In addition to that, we operate the ambulance system for the majority of Contra Costa County. So at any given day, we have between 30 and 55 ambulances on duty. We cover the entire county with the exception of Moraga, Orinda, and the San Ramon Valley. Those fire departments operate their own ambulances, but we provide service to the balance of the county through our ambulance operation.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow. Diana, what does the Red Cross do?
Well, we do a number of things, and I'd like to talk about a couple things besides preparedness. And we have 5 main lines of service, and one of them is that you might have heard of in the past is service to the armed forces. Well, we still do that. That's to help connect families with their service members who are deployed. We have actually sent people to Poland right now to help the additional American servicemen that have gone over there. We do CPR and water safety instruction and first aid training. Some of you may have taken classes through the Red Cross to help you be prepared to respond in case something happens in front of you. You may realize that we are a major blood provider as well. We do we have blood banks and blood drives that you can participate in if you're healthy. We also do have international services. We coordinate with our partners and other Red Cross chapters and other countries. Right now, you may have been hearing about the International Committee of the Red Cross and what they're trying to do to help with the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. And what we're going to talk about today is disaster cycle services part, which is us responding to disasters. There's 3 main parts of that. Preparedness is my favorite one, because if you're prepared, we won't see you at the shelter. You'll be able to take care of yourself. Response, when something happens with the wildfires, with floods, with hurricanes in other parts of the country, we respond to set up shelters and to help people recover. We have what are called caseworkers who work with people who have been involved in disasters. And this isn't just in the big disasters. We respond to house fires every day. That multifamily fire over in San Francisco, the Red Cross is there, working with the people to get them immediate help and also long-term recovery help. And I think that's one of the really great things that the Red Cross does. They don't just stop when you leave the shelter or after they see you after your house burns down. They continue to help you as much as we can, using our volunteers and our donor dollars to make a difference to people who are in need. And that's what
You just brought something up. I'm just curious, how are all 3, and this isn't one of our questions, how are you all funded? Like, how's the Red Cross funded? You said donor contribution.
That's right. We don't have any government funding. We have a charter
Wow.
from the U.S. government, but no funding from the U.S. government.
That is amazing.
And so all our services are funded by donors, but we also work with partners. We work with a number of other, St. Vincent de Paul, the Salvation Army, White Pony Express, and all kinds of groups that provide other parts of what people need when they've lost everything. I can speak to that because my house burned down in the Oakland fire 30 years ago.
Oh my God.
So with everything in it. So, it's an interesting experience, and one I hope I don't have to repeat, but that's why I'm here talking to you, so you will be ready when the time comes.
Is that why you decided to start volunteering?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I want people to know what I didn't know at the time. And it just makes a huge difference. If you prepare, you'll have a lot better chance of recovering.
Oh my gosh. How are you funded? How's CERT founded, Duncan?
CERT is we have a governmental sponsor as all CERT teams. And CERT is a national program that's executed locally. So every CERT team is a program of a governmental agency. In La Miranda, it's part or a program of the Moraga-Miranda Fire. In Walnut Creek, it's under the city of Walnut Creek, under the police department. In Concord, it's under police. But so it's all governmental sponsor, but that doesn't mean governmental money. The MOFD has a small line item budget for us for promotional things, but it's very small. We self-sponsor. We have a foundation, the La Miranda CERT Foundation. 2 to 3 times a year, we sell water drums so that people can be prepared for emergencies like earthquakes. When an earthquake happens and EB Mud loses all of its supply pipes, and they say it'll take up to 6 months to rebuild their pipe system, they'll get most residential service back up and running within 30 days. So you'll be without water except for trucked in water, which will happen 3 to 5 days after the event. So we're selling water drums at low cost to people so they can be ready to have water following a disaster. And we make a little bit of profit, very little profit, but that's enough to keep our program going.
Oh my, okay, interesting. And Aaron, I would assume our tax dollars at work?
They are, but the fire district is a kind of a unique entity in that it's a special district, so it overlays 9 cities, and we're not a function of the city or the county. We're a special district, much like a sewer district or a water district, or school district. So we have our own budget that we get. Our dollars come from your property taxes, so we don't rely on sales taxes or other taxes, but property taxes. And then the Board of Supervisors sits as our governing body, but technically it's a separate legal entity.
Interesting. Oh, interesting. Sorry, I had to throw that in because sometimes I just ask you guys questions because they're one of my questions. And I have to share something. When I was much younger, probably in middle school, I had taken a Red Cross class, and maybe it was through Girl Scouts. I don't remember how I got to it, but it was a Red Cross class on CPR. So that was a long time ago when I was in middle school, let's just say. And here I am sitting at a neighborhood gathering with some of our favorite neighbors about 4 years ago. And our neighbor Paul, we're laughing and having a great time. And our neighbor Paul puts his hands up and his mouth's open. And we all thought he was laughing. And then we thought he was just being silly. He was having a heart attack. Or he was, we're not quite sure what happened. But anyway, we thought he was choking. Anyway, because my CPR came back to me, and I don't remember what I had for breakfast, but for some reason the CPR came back to me, and I remembered how to do it and the new ways you're not supposed to do certain things, and we saved his life that day. So it's kind of cool if you want to take any of these classes. That's just my little personal story too. It was amazing.
We can teach you hands-only CPR, which is what we're teaching now for the community. Anytime you want to get a group together, me or someone very like me will come and teach you hands-only CPR. It takes about an hour to go through the whole program, if you can get people to stop after an hour. I'm a CERT as well with Duncan's group, and so I did a CPR class for them, and they didn't want to stop. They were having so much fun. That's why you remember, is because you get to practice.
Yeah.
And that's why it comes back when you need it.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I'm getting goosebumps. Anyway.
And this is what we want. We want you to respond immediately, because waiting for the fire department to show up doesn't help the person who's lying there dying.
We could hear the siren coming, but I mean, we're not going to sit back and do nothing. So yeah, anyway, it was a thrilling evening, let's just say. So Dayna, tell us about the Home Fire campaign. What is that?
We, Red Cross a few years ago started a campaign, and we work with partners, mainly fire departments, to install smoke detectors, smoke alarms in people's houses who aren't able to do it for themselves. And we have 2 programs. We have what we call a campaign every year, where we go out with the fire department generally and actually go into people's houses, give them education about how to prevent fires. Because the best fire you have is the one you don't have, because you know that you don't leave the kitchen when you're frying something up. And so we help with the education part, and then also actually install new smoke alarms in people's houses. And we also have an ongoing program where we have people sign up, and then we'll send a team to an appointment. And you can look on redcross.org and see about this. I will also provide you with information about Sound the Alarm. It's been a really successful program because at night, the only thing between you and death is your smoke detector. I think Aaron would probably agree with that. Because you won't wake up. The smoke will get you before you realize there's even a fire. And it's just extremely important to make sure that all of your smoke detectors are working, to check them regularly. And if you need new ones, get them installed. Depending on where you're living, maybe if you're in a community, they are required to take care of your smoke alarms. But you need to make sure that they're working.
Yeah. I'm going to throw something in on that note also. So, I mean, we have handymen to refer. If you just need a handyman to come out and help you with that, sometimes it's a big fat hassle and you really can't get to it. Maybe you have really high ceilings or whatever, or you don't want to get on a ladder, right?
Right. I don't do installations, I do education.
Yeah, but there's only a few things that you have to have if you sell a home in our area, and that is you have to have your smoke detectors, you have to have your carbon monoxide devices, and you have to have your water heater strapped to code. Other than that, nothing else needs to be done to your house to sell your home. But those three things have to be in place. And if you have an appraisal, your appraiser will walk away and say, I'll have to come back and complete it because you do not have your smoke and your carbon in place. So it's a big deal.
It's even more important to keep you from dying.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's
While
why
you're living
it's a big
there.
deal. That's why it's a big deal. Oh
This
my
is
God.
this is not an exaggeration either.
No.
I mean, it isn't.
So we're, how many groupies do we have here in the audience? Who's been here before? Groupies. So almost everyone has been here. Any new people, first timers? Really? Okay. Well, you'll get the hang of this pretty soon. Gosh, what was I going to say? I was going to say, that we always give the truth. Like, we give the facts here, and we do not sugarcoat things. So that's what I so appreciate about all of our panelists. They don't tell you what you want to hear, but they're going to tell you the real deal. So, Dayna, what is this? We talked about a personal support network. Do I need one, and do they need to be locally, or should they be out of the area? And just tell us about that.
Everybody needs a personal support network. They need someone who can help them when they need help. And this is particularly important that you know your neighbors. Well, if you haven't met your neighbors and it's been a little tough during COVID, walk over and knock on their door and say, "Hi, I'm George and I live next door. I just wanted to let you know who I am so that if you ever need anything, I'm here to help." We have my neighborhood's been organized because I do that sort of thing. And I found out that the best way to organize the neighborhood was to use pets. I said to people, what if you were gone and couldn't get back? You need somebody to take care of your pets. And they were all for it. Who cares about the kids? I tried with the kids the first time, so. But it's really the thing that, especially if you have access and functional needs, if you use a walker or a wheelchair, or maybe you don't drive anymore, and if we have to evacuate, you need to know who your neighbors are, know who's going to need help. If you need help, that you want them to know that you're going to need help, and how to communicate with them. We have everybody's phone number and everybody's email address and everybody's pets and children's names. And it's just, I feel that's the most important thing that I could do is to get this group together so that we can help each other out when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. And then what about out of area? You'd mentioned that.
We also need an out-of-area person, because when you look at this book that I have put on the back for you, you will realize that you're going to need a contact card. There's contact card forms out the back there too, and we'll send them out as well.
Excellent.
This is, reason you need an out-of-the-area contact is because when the disaster happens, you won't be able to call somebody across the street, but you may be able to text or contact someone in another state. My sister in Michigan is my out-of-the-area contact. And you need this form because your brain won't be working. And I have I have several copies of these in various places so that I can look at them and see what my sister's phone number is. I know it's in my cell phone, but my cell phone may not be with me or it may not be working. I can't trust it. So I have this card that has my out-of-the-area contact plus other phone numbers. You also need a meeting place. If you have family members or even if you don't, you want people to know where you're going to go if you have to evacuate. This is also put on the card, because 6 months from now, when I want to know where I'm supposed to meet my husband, I'd like to be able to read it down, because I don't know if that I will remember it in 6 months. We will have talked about 7 things and then decided on one. And I like this because you can fill it out once and make copies of it, and all copies will say the same thing. Write them out separately.
It's a miracle.
Who knows?
Oh my gosh. So that's awesome. Diana, what should we expect to find in a Red Cross shelter?
If you come to the shelter, you will find people who care and want to help you. That's the most important thing you'll find. You'll also get a nice cot and a blanket and food. You'll get snacks, 3 hot meals a day, and hopefully in a short time you'll find someplace else to go because it won't be as comfortable as you'd like. But we will take care of you while you're there. We will take care of you. We have pharmacists, we have doctors, we have spiritual help, we have psychological first aid help. And believe me, if you go through a disaster, psychological help is something that you're going to want, because your brain turns into a piece of mush and stays there for some time. And so even if you don't have to stay at the shelter, I recommend going to the shelter and registering. That way people will know, other people who are maybe looking for you will be able to find you. And also they will have all of these other services that from the county and from the state and from every place else there or access to contacts for those people. And so it's really a good idea, even if you don't need a place to stay, to come to the shelter and register. So that's one thing that I would like to comment on, because I know a lot of you probably wouldn't be staying in the shelter, but it's some place to get information about what's going on.
Yes.
If I can jump in here.
You bet.
Having worked shelters as part of the Medical Reserve Corps, we go to the shelters set up by the Red Cross, and we provide the pharmacy and the medical care, so forth, and psychological first aid, as does Red Cross, obviously. But when you get to a shelter, you're not going to want to stay there. You want to get out as soon as you can, because they're really not great places.
It's basic.
It's basic is a good word for it. Your cot is a few feet from another cot, and you can hear everything that's going on all night long, and the lights are on, and they may be dimmed, but they're still on. So it's not a great place to stay. But one of the things that you will get when you register is you'll leave your contact information. When you go to a Red Cross shelter, say you're in a Tubbs fire, a major fire, and I worked that fire, and when everything settles down, when the fires are out and you've lost your home, you've lost everything, then you go to what's called a local assistance center that's set up by, it's a whole group of people. You have federal representation, you have insurance companies, you've got everybody who can help you is there. But I've worked with a lot of people, primarily seniors, who get out of the house at the last minute at 1 o'clock in the morning in their bedclothes, and they don't have anything. They walk out without even car keys. They can't show can't show where they lived, that they owned the house, that they had a car, They don't remember their insurance agent's name and contact information of their home insurance. You don't remember all of that stuff frequently because those are minor details. So you need all of that written down. And when you go to the local assistance center, you'll need to take proof that you actually owned a house, that you owned a car, that you have all of this. What's your medical insurance? All of that. You want all of that written down. You want all of those documents, and you want them with you or in a very accessible place.
That's great.
Which, if you haven't seen this before, they're on the back table. It's the Lafayette, or the Lamorinda Residents Guide to Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation. That's not just wildfire. This happens for earthquake or flood or anything else where you may be out of your house. So,
Yeah, really good. Thank you for jumping in there, for sure. Well, guess what's approaching, everyone? Fire season. So we're going to just lob over to Aaron here and start asking what are some things, Aaron, that we can start doing to prepare for our favorite season of the year? And then there's some follow-up questions. So things to prepare. What is a red flag warning? Like, what does it mean? I mean, we hear about it. And then how do you know if one's been issued? You know, you're just going about your day out gardening or whatever. How do you know? So take it away.
So I am afraid that we're headed for an early fire season, given the lack of rain and drought conditions. The hills are already turning. We're predicting an early start to fire season. We're going to start upgrading our responses to what we call full responses about April 15th, where we start sending more than one unit to a wildland fire. I think so.
You can pull it.
Let me get a little closer.
There you go.
There
You
we
can
go.
all pull yours forward, and you don't have to lean forward then.
And every year we see about a dozen red flag days in Contra Costa County. The media is really good about publicizing those red flag days. We at the fire district and other fire agencies put that on our social media, trying to reach the community and inform the community that we are under red flag conditions. And we have a couple of asks on red flag days. It's a cause for the community to have a heightened sense of awareness. They should know and be aware that we're under red flag conditions. If you've not cut your weeds and you're behind, you don't want to do it on a red flag day. That's probably not the day you want to run heavy equipment or do outside type activities. We're working with the parks and the open space management agencies to actually close their parks to public access on red flag days. That's not the day to go for a hike or a walk. It puts people in the wildland urban interface environment, and if there was to be a fire start, our resources are better utilized fighting fire than they are doing rescues of people that are in the hiking on Mount Diablo. That's not the day to do it on a red flag day. So there's several ways to just improve your situational awareness and know that that's that day, and take a little extra precaution on a red flag day.
Awesome. Okay. So what are some of the warning systems? How do we get connected to those?
The primary warning system for the county, if we were going to do an evacuation or evacuation warning, is the CWS system. And you can register on the website. We do have the technology to ping cell phones within a certain geographic area. It's the reverse 911 system, where we would attempt to reach everybody in that geographic area. There's two terminologies you want to listen for: evacuation warning and evacuation order. Warning is that first heads up that we feel it might be necessary, and then the order is, okay, time to go. If you're in a situation where you need a little extra time to evacuate, go ahead and leave early. If you think you're in danger in any way, go ahead and self-evacuate. Don't wait for us to tell you to evacuate. What we found in some of these Northern California fires, that they are so fast moving and time is of the essence. We are attempting to deliver a large amount of information to the greatest amount of people in the fastest way possible. But if you think you're in any sort of danger, go ahead and evacuate and get an early start.
That's awesome.
I evacuate early and often. because I am terribly paranoid after having the fire, and we could have died. We could easily have died in that fire. We were just lucky that we didn't die in that fire. So, you know, I go, if it's bad, I just went around last couple years ago and told my neighbors there's no evacuation, but I'm leaving, and 3 or 4 of the rest of them left too, because we didn't have a fire, but it was in Lafayette. And a fire in Lafayette could be in Moraga in a very short time.
Certainly could.
It went across all the way to Rockridge in half an hour. Killed all the people in the first 15 minutes in the Oakland fire.
Aaron, you said, okay, the warning system, and you mentioned cell phones and the reverse 911. What about home phones? Not everyone. Well, I'm going to guess most people here have a cell phone, but I'm going to guess there's a good number that don't turn it on. My mother has one, but she never turns it on. She never charges it. So is there a way to get in touch with people through their home phones?
So law enforcement will attempt to do a door-to-door evacuation. That's one step in the process. But if you're in a situation where you rely on your home phone and you may be hearing impaired or have other challenges, there is some technology available to assist you. It could be a strobe light, it could be a bed shaker. What am I missing, Duncan? Is there any other technologies there?
Well, those are the primary, but for CWS, and CWS isn't only for cell phones. How many of you're all old enough to remember AT&T or Pac-Bell landline phones, because that's all we had, and they had a copper wire that came to your house. Now a lot of those have been replaced with internet-based phones. If you still have the landline with the copper wire, you're in great shape because the CWS system knows about all of those. But if you have an internet-based phone called a VoIP phone, and you get your phone bill from Verizon or Magic Jack or anyone else, anyone other than AT&T. AT&T is the only landline phone that tells CWS about their phones. AT&T internet phones are like everybody else's internet phones, and the county doesn't know about them unless you register them. So go online, and in this book, it talks about it. There's a whole page that talks about CWS. So for your cell phones and your VoIP phones, go online and register them so the county knows what number to call you at. And they can call your phone, your cell phone, they'll call them all. For the phones that will wake you up, Clarity has one that's a great phone, and I'll get the links out. It's not only very, very loud, it's 100 decibels. It's almost, the ringer is almost like a police siren going off in your house.
And that comes through your landline?
It can be connected to your landline or to a VoIP line.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's like a big old desk phone that you used to have, may still, but it has a flashing light on it, a red strobe light, and it has a bed shaker. So it's like a hockey puck that goes under your mattress. And it will shake the bejesus out of your mattress in the middle of the night to wake you up.
Magic fingers. You know why I love this? It sounds so weird, but I love this because, for instance, when my mom goes to sleep, she takes her hearing aids out. She can't hear a thing. She's asleep. Even somebody knocking on her door, which they were when the Saunders Ranch fire was going on, she didn't hear them. So, but I bet the bed shaking would wake her up, and strobe lights when she's been, so that's awesome. Have you heard of those? Have you heard of that book? No.
And they're not expensive. This one's like $125 for a one-time life insurance policy.
I love it.
Every iPhone has a feature in it where you can turn the flash on as a strobe light when it rings, and the flash will go off.
Again, you have to have it charged.
True.
There's the problem there. I'm just being real here. Okay, so anything else to add, Duncan, about fires and preparedness at this point? Because we'll get back to you in a bit. Nope. Okay. Okay, we're going to talk about the go bag, and I think Diana and Duncan both had things to talk about. Duncan, you were going to talk about some of the basics, to add in there.
Again, on the back table,
You're going to be going out through the back table,
there's a
obviously.
flyer that says go bag, bug out bag, good bag. They're all the same thing. Good stands for get out of Dodge. This is the bag that you want with everything in it that you're going to need for the first few days, 72 hours. So you can grab it, and it has medications, it has spare eyeglasses, it has some clothes, it has everything you need, including copies of documents, so you can rebuild your life. Anyway, there's a good handout, and on the back side, it has suggestions for what your go bag might include. And everybody's go bag's going to be a little different, but think about what you're going to put in it. Put in seasonal clothing, and remember it gets cold at night. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to a shelter, you don't want to have just that, the pajamas on that you had on when you went to bed. You want to be able to grab this on your way out the door and have some clothes so you can
Because
be
it's
comfortable.
sitting next to the door. When the red flag is up, it's sitting next to the door that you're going to go out. So all you have to do is pick it up. It's all ready.
Duncan, could you go over some of the documents that we would put in the go bag? I'm interested in that.
Okay, well, it's
On page,
It's an extensive list, but in the yellow book, and pick one up on the way out, but we have another one. For those of you who live in La Miranda, we'll be mailing an updated version of this. We'll be mailing it in June. We're working on it right now.
Nice.
But we've got a 2-page worksheet that goes through housing, your title, lease, rental agreement, so forth, the mortgage, the insurance, your personal ID, birth certificate, passport, driver's license, green card, social security, military DD-214, health insurance policy and Medicare card, and your vehicle title and or loan, and insurance, and who's your primary care doctor and dentist and pharmacist, and what drugs are you taking, the dose and the frequency and the prescriber. And so this is all data that you want to go through the list, get all the documents, and then photograph them. Take your cell phone and photograph every document so that you then have it and set them aside in an album in your cell phone, like ID album or whatever.
Do you ever recommend people take a copy of all those and put them on a thumb drive or something?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be easy? And then you could even have your trust, right? Your trust, your will, like.
it took me about 2 hours when I finally got up the nerve
Right.
to start, because I thought it was going to take a long time, but I have a document feeder on my printer, so I just scanned them all to get in and put it on a flash drive. The one thing you want to be careful with your flash drive, you want it in your go bag, you want it somewhere else, because if your house burns down when you're not home, you're not going to have your go bag, so you're not going to have it. You want it someplace else too. But where you put it, you need to realize all those documents are on there. So it's best to encrypt it. And if you don't encrypt it, only put it places where you know that nobody else is going to get to it. You can send it to my sister in Michigan, for example, gets all kinds of things from me because she's not in California.
Yeah, personally, I zip everything together so it's in one file, and then I email it to my out-of-state contact and say, if we ever need it, here it is. Don't bother with it then, but hang on to it.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Wow. And then you didn't mention pets. What do we need for our go bag for pets?
need
I'll
a
send
go
you
bag for
a pet evacuation one that you can send out, but just think of your pet as yourself, but they can't plan for themselves, so you have to make them a plan, and then you have to make them a kit. And if it's a big enough dog, you can teach the dog to carry its own kit.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, on page 6 of this, it's in the evacuation tips, and the evacuation tips are do now, do it, red flag warning, do it, evacuation order, so forth. They're timed, but do now for animals, and it has 9 things to do now for your animals to be prepared. And one of them is get a go bag with leashes, poop bags, water dish, medications, et cetera.
So cute. Okay, perfect. So, Aaron talked about fire, but there's all those other emergencies that we could be faced with. So, Duncan, how would we be notified or alerted for the other emergencies?
If it's a life-threatening emergency, then CWS will call. But it's only for life-threatening emergencies.
Like?
Fire, earthquake, flood,
Okay.
so forth. Any other emergencies, the police departments use various methods, like Nixle. I trust that you're all signed up for Nixle.
Tell us about Nixle. Okay, well, how many here are signed up for Nixle? Okay, maybe
Okay.
a third.
Nixle,
See, we need these guys. He's going to tell you.
yeah, going to,
Evidently, we all need this book. And by the way, while he's looking this up, these 3 wonderful people are going to be providing me with links and additional documents. Some of the documents in the back will be soft copy, and we will send you your monthly email saying thank you for coming, and we'll have those links in that email, okay? Then you can download and save those and print them out if you wish.
on page 4, below the CWS discussion where it tells you how to sign up for CWS, it talks about Nixle, and Nixle is Nixle. Each police department has a Nixle account, so when there's a tree down across a road, or power's out so the signals aren't working, or there's a police activity so they want you to stay away from an area, so forth, they'll send out a Nixle. Now, I believe the fire departments also use Nixle. No?
No?
Okay.
Oh.
But the police departments all use it. So they will get the message to you, and it'll just flash as a message on your cell phone.
And you can sign up for as many communities as you frequent. Like if you work someplace, or if your children live someplace and you go there a lot, it's by town. So you can. I'm signed up for Moraga, Orinda, Lafayette. I was signed up for El Cerrito because that's where my daughter lived, and when I worked in San Francisco, I was signed up for San Francisco. So you can just pick the places that you frequent and sign up for those areas, because that's when you want to know that the tree's across the road and I can't get from Moraga to anywhere else.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right. So Duncan, will CERT help my street arrange a neighborhood group, like watch group? How does that work?
Okay. CERT and Neighborhood Watch are two different organizations. They have 2 different focuses. Neighborhood Watch is for crime prevention, and it's set up by the local police department. So if you're interested in a Neighborhood Watch group in your area, call your police department. If you're in Lafayette, call Kathy at the Lafayette Police Department, and she will work with you on setting up a Neighborhood Watch. That's separate but closely coupled with CERT. In CERT, we train individuals, no matter where they live, and you can be the only person on your street who's CERT trained, but we hope that you then encourage others, your neighbors, to become CERT trained also. So CERT is where we teach you how to be prepared and how to respond to emergency, whereas Neighborhood Watch is the neighbors all looking out for each other to reduce crime. That's, in a nutshell, that's the two different operations, but hopefully everybody works together and gets CERT spread throughout the community to be prepared for disasters and know how to respond to disasters.
Got it, got it. And I think this last question that we had discussed before about earthquake preparedness and response, you know, when electricity goes off, we talked a little bit about medical equipment and medications.
Right. Being ready for an earthquake is like being ready for any other natural disaster or man-made disaster. If you're ready for one, you should assume that you're ready for everything, for all disasters, to a certain degree. So being ready to evacuate, it doesn't matter why you're evacuating. Listen, don't plan your evacuation route in advance. And this is because if we have a wildfire coming, where's the fire? Where do you live? Which way is the smoke blowing? Where are the fire engines coming from? These are all variables. So, and we don't know right now where the shelters will be. So in the evacuation order that you get from CWS, they will tell you by zone, and you're all in listed evacuation zones. They'll tell you by zone what route to take, and basically we're telling everybody just get to the freeway, but we'll tell you which route to take, and that will avoid the smoke, avoid the flames, avoid the incoming fire engines, because we have a lot of narrow roads, and fire engines take a lot of space. So if they're going one way, we want you going out a different route. So listen for that evacuation warning or notice and follow the directions on it.
Is that a PSPS? What is a PSPS?
A PSPS, a public safety power shutoff. This is something that PG&E and other electric utilities throughout the state did, and fortunately they're being reduced somewhat because their technologies are getting better, but this was done to prevent another Paradise, where the trees blow into their power lines and catch fire, and then you have a massive fire. If they cut the power to those power lines, then there's no fire. So in order to prevent a fire, they will proactively shut off the power in advance. And their technology is getting better and better, so they can shut off smaller and smaller areas. So the PSPSs are reducing in number and area. But also the local jurisdictions, like the city of Lafayette, now has generators at all of the key intersections to run the stoplights. Didn't happen before when we had PSPS. But you'll, when a PSPS is required, they will try to notify you in advance and then shut off your power.
Diana or Aaron, do you want to add anything to PSPS?
Yeah, the first year of PSPS was an absolute disaster. They were painting communities with a broad brush. They turned off the power to my 911 dispatch center, and we ran on generator for 3 days.
Great.
Absolutely unacceptable. So PG&E was blasted by the public, blasted by public safety agencies, and I do credit them for having a little more laser focus and improving that. Unfortunately, I still have Fire Station Lafayette up on St. Mary's that gets their power shut off during a PSPS event because they are in a high-risk wildland environment. So they have come a long ways in recent years, and the impacts of a PSPS are less than they were in the first year.
Yeah. Well, now, Denka brought up something that we do want to talk about a little bit, which is generators, right? Because
Can I just interject one
yeah,
thing?
you bet, you bet.
People who are on medication that needs to be refrigerated or are on, have things that they use that have to have electricity really need to have a plan, because it doesn't take much anymore for even without a PSPS, for our power to go off. And so if you're in that situation, if you haven't got a plan, you need one. And now we'll talk about.
Now we'll talk about generators. Yeah.
Okay, do we need a generator?
Yeah.
Does everyone need a generator? If you live in an apartment house, maybe not, because maybe the apartment house has it taken care of. But if not, then where would you put a generator? A generator must be outdoors. It cannot be inside a house, because the exhaust, if it's in the house, the exhaust will kill you. So have it outside with a cord coming in. You may have a cord coming in and running your refrigerator or a freezer or durable medical equipment. If you live with a CPAP or something like that, you need power for that. So you need either a generator or a battery backup. To go high end, you have a solar array on your roof with a Tesla Powerwall. That'll keep you going for a while, as long as it's sunny. What kind of generator do you need? Well, you can get a whole house generator that can automatically kick in. Oh, but wait a minute, we have all those people who say we don't want any natural gas use anymore. We want to electrify everything and no natural gas. Well, guess what? Generators use gas, be it natural gas or propane or gasoline or diesel, they use gas. So you have to have a gas supply to them. It can be plumbed in if it's a big whole house generator, but it's plugged into the natural gas. So if you go to the La Miranda CERT website, and I will provide a link, we have a whole worksheet on, so you think you need a generator. And it tells you how to figure out what kind of generator do you really need, what kind of power source. Do you want gas? Well, gas goes bad in a few months. So maybe you want a propane generator, because propane doesn't go bad. But propane has other issues for it. And how big a generator do you need? So there's a worksheet to figure out. And when I started my worksheet, I looked at what do I not want to lose power to? There's the obvious, the refrigerator and the freezer. But in my case, I drink a lot of wine. And my wine is a lot more valuable. What's it cost to replace the groceries in my refrigerator? A couple of $100. What's it cost to replace 500 bottles of good wine? That's a lot of money.
Party at
So the
Dunkin'
first thing
this
on my
weekend.
worksheet was the most important to me. It was my wine cooler.
Duncan's got his priorities straight.
Yeah.
Right. So you put in your priorities, your electrical use by priority. So I have my wine cooler, my refrigerator, my freezer, and recharging my electronics. With that, I can live. So that tells me how big a generator I need. And so if you go through the worksheet, you can figure out, do you need a generator, what kind, what fuel source, and how big.
Yeah, because the gas powered, you've got to keep putting more gas in.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so for instance, I use my poor mom. Don't tell her I talk about her behind her back, 'cause she'll kill me. But she's not going to get up. I mean, she's in a wheelchair. She's not going to get up, go downstairs, and put more gas in the generator at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? So that's why we got the whole house generator. So, but you're saying
And
it runs on
gasoline-
electricity.
Gasoline only lasts, it has a shelf life of like 6 months. After that, it's no good. You have to replace it. So you have, and small generators, which are adequate for a lot of homes for minimal use, for refrigerators and durable medical devices and so forth, you may only get 3 or 4 hours of use in a tank of gas, a tank of fuel in the generator. Then you have to go fill it up again.
Right.
So you have to store a lot of fuel. Well, if it goes bad in 6 months, what do you do with the old gas? Well, you put it in your car if your car will take the regular gas. You put it in your car before it goes bad and you refill your tanks. It's a pain. So
It's a maintenance issue and that's something you really want to consider is whether you really want to maintain a generator or whether you have friends who live somewhere else.
real possibility.
Well, you can
going
get a
down
little electric one that'll take care of his wine cooler and then go visit your friends.
All right, Duncan, what's one of the most important things that you would do right now to prepare for an earthquake?
Plan.
Okay.
Plan. And again, if you go through this book, it has evacuation tips, and it's got, 4 pages of do now for go bag, do now for documents, do now preparedness actions, do now for access and functional needs individuals, do now for communications, do now for your neighborhood, for your pets, do at red flag warning, do when the fire is near. Oh, one little thing to do at red flag warning is if your car is in a garage, get it out of the garage. Back it into your driveway so you don't have to back out into traffic when everyone's trying to leave. You don't want to be backing out into the traffic lane. You want to be able to pull forward, so you back into your driveway.
Interesting.
They're just little things like that that save a lot of time, save a lot of headache.
When we were talking earthquakes, though, so Diane, you had said something about our furniture.
There's a very good publication called Putting Down Roots in Earthquake Country. I'm going to send the link in, but you can just Google Putting Down Roots, and it's a collaboration between the USGS and the Red Cross and a whole bunch of other people. And it has a whole bunch of information on how to secure your furniture and paintings and your valuables. And it doesn't take that long to do it. Well, sometimes securing the furniture, you might want to hire one of these handymen that she has available for you. But it's really worthwhile because mainly what's going to happen is everything, the house is going to shake a lot. I don't know if you've ever been on the shaker table over at the museum, but everything's going to shake, and anything that's not secured is going to fall over. And if you happen to be under whatever falls over, you're going to be hurt. And you don't want to become a victim because they're not coming with their ambulance to help you because there's too many people that are hurt. So the biggest issue is to not become a victim. So if you have a picture hanging over your bed at home, I want you to go home right now and take it down. You can hang a nice tapestry or whatever else that's soft over your bed, but not a picture in a frame with a glass over it, because if that comes off and hits you in the head, you'll be a victim. Otherwise, the bed's the best place to be. If you've got all your furniture secured, put the bed covers over your head, you're good. Nothing's going to hurt you. So, and it's things like having shoes and a flashlight next to your bed. You really need shoes and a flashlight because the power will go off. The windows will break. The picture that's over on that wall that didn't fall on your head is going to have fallen on the floor, and it's going to have glass broken in it. Something will happen. You don't want to walk around in bare feet. You want to have a light so that you can see. And don't just put your, Douglas reminding me I brought this. Everybody needs one of these. This is an older model. It doesn't charge your cell phone, but the new ones do. This is solar powered. It has a crank. You can wind it up. It has a red light. It has a flashlight. And it's a radio so that you can find out what's going on. It's called a crank radio, actually, is what it's generally called. A crank radio.
Crank.
But nowadays, they have a solar panel, so you can just leave it in the window and it'll always be charged, or leave it in sunlight. You can get these from the Red Cross, of course. There's a little buy now. If you go to redcross.org, there's a buy now thing. But you can get these at Ace Hardware or REI or lots of places. But I do have to
Amazon.
Amazon. But I do have to say, though, the Red Cross does have a lot of interesting things. They have go bags that you can buy. They have house kits that you can buy. They have lots of things, as do these other places.
Nice.
If you buy a kit, take everything out and play with it, because it doesn't have everything you need. And I also want to say one more thing about your go bag. You need a list on top of it of the things like insulin, like that are refrigerated medications, like your CPAP machine, that you're going to stick in at the last minute. You're not going to leave it in there. Your cell phone charger, you can put an extra one in there, but your cell phone, you want to make sure you take it with you and turn it on.
And you can get solar-powered cell phone chargers, too.
Yeah.
I brought that when I hiked up in the high Sierras with, nothing up
The
there.
new ones will charge your cell phone, and you can charge it if it's not sun's not out. You can do the crank.
Yeah.
Charge your cell phone.
We're going to jump back to Aaron again, and we're going to go back to home fire safety and how homeowners.
Before we go there,
Okay, because I'm watching the time.
yeah, real quick, because she just talked about radio.
Yes.
If you're in La Miranda, there is a Lafayette emergency radio station, 1670 AM. It's on 24/7. It's boring to listen to when there's nothing going on because it just tells you about the station. But whenever there's any information, emergency information, 1670 AM, and it's low power, but you can get it throughout La Miranda.
Awesome. Interesting.
And if you don't remember, turn on the radio and just turn the dial around until you find out the only stations that are on, because those are the emergency stations.
So we're going to jump back to home fire safety, not so much wildfire, because didn't you tell me that that is the most common fire that you get called on?
Yeah. So we always like to talk about smoke detectors, and you've heard a lot about that today. A good reminder to check your smoke detectors and test them is when we change your battery, when the clocks change, right? So that's a twice-a-year opportunity to check the batteries, check your smoke detector. Many of those smoke detectors are hardwired today, but you still want to test them. They do have battery backups. Just a general home safety check. So a lot of times we are more likely to come to your home for a medical emergency than we are for a wildland fire or a structure fire. So can we maneuver throughout the home? Can we get to the bedroom? Can we make our way into the home? Or is there furniture in the way that inhibits access for us to make our way through the home? Is the address marked as we approach a home, especially in the wildland-urban interface, like we find here in Lafayette? Are the numbers clearly displayed out at the driveway or on the mailbox? Can we identify the house numbers on our way into that emergency? Things like that. The driveway access, is it overgrown? Can we get a fire engine in your driveway? A lot of times people don't think about it from that perspective. You drive a sedan or a passenger vehicle, and you don't think about the overhangs that might prohibit a fire engine from getting all the way to your home. So a little more to it than your typical wildland preparedness, but take a look at your home from that perspective as well.
Okay. And then we talked about some safe cooking practices.
Yeah. We do end up at a lot of emergencies that end up being a pot on the stove that get forgotten or left, and people move on to other things, get distracted. So setting a timer or a reminder There's timers on everybody's cell phone. My wife is notorious for using that timer and reminders. And so that you do go back and don't forget those things, that leaving the oven on or leaving a pot on the stove that generate a lot of smoke and typically won't burn down your home if you catch it in time, but there's always that potential.
And then good old fire extinguishers. I mean, how often do we need to change those out? I mean, I hate to tell you how old ours is.
Yeah, they're not good forever. They're pretty affordable at the hardware store. You can pick one up for $25. Always good to have a multi-purpose fire extinguisher at the garage, near the kitchen, where it's likely to be used.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They typically have a little indicator on the top of the fire extinguisher, and it'll tell you when it's not good anymore. Yeah.
And we're gonna get to questions in one quick minute because we've got a couple more for Aaron, and then we will get to Q&A. So write your questions down so you remember them. We talked about exit plans and having maybe 2 exits out of every home or every room. Is that possible?
Hopefully, by code, fire code does require sleeping spaces to have a secondary exit. So windows count. Keep in mind your primary exit that you're used to using could be blocked for some reason. So have another way to get out. That's true for a bedroom. That's true for any other part of the house. So you might not be able to go out the front door. You might have to use an alternate exit.
Okay. And now, even with our real estate, California Association of Realtors, contracts and associated documentation, we have now specific documents about fire hardening spaces, defensible spaces. People have to now disclose what fire zone they live in. So this has gotten to be a really big thing. So if we live in a very high fire hazard severity zone, what do we do? Do we have to create defensible space around our home? And how do we encourage our neighbors to do the same that maybe couldn't be bothered to do that?
Yeah, defensible space is important. I can tell you, I've been to a lot of wildland fires up and down the state, and in the heat of battle, it is very easy for us to go, nope, that's not defendable, and we just move on to the next. So it's a help us help you kind of thing. If you can build in defensible space at your property that gives us the ability to get in there and defend your home, then it has a fighting chance. Ultimately, some homes are self-defendable that have really good defensible space where we go, okay, that's going to be okay by itself. I can move on to something that maybe might be a little more marginal. But again, it's really easy for us in the heat of the battle to really write things off and go, no, it's not safe. I can't put firefighters there. It doesn't have the proper defensible space. So a little bit of work ahead of time. Maybe if you're behind the curve, it might cost some money. There are grants available through the Fire Safe Council. The Diablo Fire Safe Council does have some grants available. And if you get together with your neighbors and you form groups in the neighborhood, we'll come out and do a chipper day, something like that, where we can bring some resources to the table to help a community that bands together and have a little larger impact.
That's awesome. So the funding could pay for it?
Funding can help individual property owners, and then Contra Costa County Fire and some of our other partners in the county can help larger neighborhood groups where we come together.
Is there a cost to that?
No, there's not. So your tax dollars help pay for
That's awesome.
our hand crew. We partnered last year with Lafayette where we did some vegetation disposal. The city paid for some dumpsters. We brought out our hand crew to perform some of the labor, and then the neighbors did some of the work on their properties and collectively made a really big impact.
That's awesome. Okay, I think we're ready, unless there's some burning last-minute piece of information you want to share, we're going to jump into questions and answers. Duncan.
I have one. At the Lafayette Emergency Preparedness Commission, we're pushing for visible addresses. And if you go down the street and you see a nice brown house with a brown plaque on it and black numbers that's set way back from the street, can you imagine trying to see that
At night?
At night, no. If you have a curb, get your number painted with a white background and black numbers on the curb. If you don't have a curb, consider putting in a solar-powered post that has your address on it. It'll come on and it's dusk to dawn. There's your number right out by the street. So when the ambulance comes up because your husband's having a heart attack, they can find your house.
That's awesome. Awesome.
And they're cheap, $25, $30.
Questions? We'll start on this side. Questions? All right. Sally, I'll hold it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was curious. La Marinda, people love their trees, and there are trees everywhere. And how do you get your neighbor to cut their trees or do something with their trees? Does the fire department, go around the neighborhoods and knock on people's doors and say, hey, you're living in a forest, you have to cut these trees?
That's a really good, yeah. Did everyone hear that? What if your neighbor has, we love our trees. What if your neighbor's trees are out of control and could be a fire hazard? How can we encourage them to keep their trees trimmed and not be a problem?
It's a touchy issue, especially here in Lafayette. And there are competing interests, and we understand that. The fire department does do defensible space inspections, and we will make recommendations to cut trees back. I can tell you from my experience, I was the project manager for the fire district when we built Fire Station 16 here in Lafayette. Through the planning of that fire station, we went out of our way to preserve a heritage oak tree on that lot. That tree didn't survive the construction. That tree's dead, and it's being removed from our fire station site because it's a hazard. So sometimes government entities are in conflict with each other, and that's controversial and political in the community, but the fire department does do inspections and make recommendations. They do as well.
Yeah, MOFD does, and their fuels mitigation staff at MOFD will take a complaint and they will investigate it. And if there is a code violation, they can require something to be done. But if there's no code violation, then you just have to work with the neighbor. Yes.
Duncan, how do we get one of those water containers, and how long does the water last? How long does the water stay fresh in those containers?
Great question. If you're on Nextdoor, we advertise the sales on Nextdoor. Go to the lamarindacert.org website, which you'll send a link, and for La Marinda residents, we will deliver them. We currently have some extra inventory that we're selling out. So
We bought one from a local church, too. It's about 7 feet tall. And we change the water we were told every 6 months, change it out and add a couple little drops of chlorine.
Ours
Okay.
lasts forever.
yeah, an FDA certified drum like we sell, they're closed, they're not for rainwater collection. You put in fresh water, you put in the bleach as you fill it, and then seal it, and the water never goes bad. I've tasted 25-year-old water and it's fine. So it never goes bad. You put it in once and pray you never have to use it, but if you do, it's good.
Any other questions? Okay.
Wait.
Who? Oh, there you are. Raina?
Where can we get the form that you mentioned, Duncan, to help us determine what we need in the way of a generator?
The generator information.
Oh, again, that's on the lamarindacert.org website.
Did you have a handout for that?
No,
Do you have a soft copy you could share with me? Or is it just the link?
it's a link.
Okay.
If you go to the resources tab, you can find it on lamarindacert.org.
Okay. any other questions on this side? All right, I'll circle back here.
I may or may not have a CERT-trained person in my neighborhood. How are they identified?
Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
And I can only speak for La Miranda, but we have on the website, again, lamirandacert.org, one of the tabs is maps. And you can go in and see a map of the city with the last known address of someone who took CERT. And of course, they don't all tell us when they're going to move. We have people who are no longer living. We have people who, so forth. So we don't know that these are current addresses, but to the best of our knowledge, there's a dot. Pardon? I don't think that Walnut Creek has this. So,
Not everybody here is just from Lama.
oh, I know, but I can only speak
I know.
to the La Miranda CERT website.
Well, we can,
Or-
maybe check out, the.
Yeah,
Lama
you
Creek.
can,
Yeah.
you can ask Walnut Creek CERT.
So, okay, we're going to take one more question, and then I'm going to, in the meantime, ask who's doing the raffle today, if they want to come up with their little basket of tickets. And anyone here, quick question? All right, Mickey.
Hi. Yes? Yeah, thank you. We were in the firestorm, so we've had a lot of experience. I want to say about a go bag. We still have one in our car, and we have furnished one and had our children, adult children, all carry it in their car. But the two tips I would say that you could do today: one, never let your gas tank go less than half a tank. Number two, always keep cash on hand, whatever you can afford, small bills, because you can't get into ATMs. Cash is very, very difficult to come by, and resources to buy things can be difficult.
That's really good. That's really good. Excellent. Okay.